Hey everyone, and welcome back to our series on the Ottoman Sultans. Today we are diving into the life of a ruler who spent almost 40 years locked away before ascending to a throne on the brink of collapse. This is the story of Suleiman II, a man whose brief reign was defined by chaos, crisis, and a desperate struggle to hold the empire together. So, who was Suleiman II? To understand him, we need to rewind a bit. He was the son of the powerful Sultan Ibrahim and the younger brother of Mehmed IV, the Sultan we just covered. Now, if you remember the Ottoman system, princes were often seen as threats. After a failed plot to depose Mehmed in favor of Suleiman early in Mehmed's reign, Suleiman was placed in the cafes, the infamous cage, within Topkapi Palace. This wasn't a literal cage, but a luxurious, gilded prison. For nearly 4 decades, from the age of 6 until he was 45, Suleiman lived in isolation, cut off from the world, with no training in statecraft or military affairs. Imagine that for decades of waiting, wondering if your next visitor was coming to make you sultan or to execute you. His moment finally came in 1687. The Ottoman Empire was in the midst of the Great Turkish War, a disastrous conflict against a coalition of European powers known as the Holy League. The army had just suffered a catastrophic defeat at the Second Battle of. The soldiers were furious, unpaid, and starving. They marched on Istanbul, deposed Mehmed IV, and dragged a bewildered Suleiman out of the cafes to become the new sultan. Suleiman's first taste of power was pure chaos. The mutinous soldiers who had just made him sultan weren't exactly respectful. They stormed the palace, demanding back pay and bonuses. When the treasury was found to be empty, they went on a rampage. They even presented the new sultan with the head of the grand vizier they had just executed. Suleiman, having no experience, was forced to confirm their ringleaders in high positions just to calm things down. It was a terrifying start. He had the title of sultan, but in reality he was a prisoner of his own army. The situation on the front lines was just as bleak. The Holy League was pressing its advantage everywhere. The Habsburg Austrians, our main rival, were on a roll. They captured the crucial fortress of Belgrade in 1688, a city that had been Ottoman for over 150 years. This opened the door right into the heart of the Balkans. Serbia, Bosnia, Wallachia, all of these territories were either invaded or under severe threat. It seemed like the entire European portion of the empire was about to crumble. The Austrians were even pushing as far south as Skopje. To many, it looked like the end was near. Back in Istanbul, Suleiman was trying to get a grip on the situation. His lack of experience was a huge problem. He initially deferred heavily to his advisors, but he was a deeply religious and conscientious man. He understood the gravity of the situation and was determined to do his duty. One of his first and most significant decisions was a stroke of genius. In 1689, he appointed a man named Fazıl Mustafa Pasha from the renowned K family as his Grand Vizier. The K had a reputation for being brilliant, iron-fisted reformers who had saved the empire from crisis before, and Fazıl Mustafa Pasha was no exception. He was exactly what the empire needed: disciplined, intelligent, and ruthless. He immediately cracked down on the corruption and insubordination that was crippling the state. He purged the army of mutinous elements, reformed the tax system to refill the treasury, and made sure the soldiers were properly paid and equipped. This was a critical turning point. He wasn't just patching holes. He was rebuilding the very foundations of the state and military. With the home front stabilized, Suleiman II and Fazıl Mustafa Pasha could finally focus on the war. In a move that shocked many, Suleiman decided to lead the army in person. Remember, this was a man who had spent his life indoors. He was not a military commander, but his presence was a massive morale boost for the troops. It showed that the Sultan was willing to share their hardships and fight alongside them. This new energy, combined with K.'s reforms, started to pay off. The Ottoman army, which had been on the defensive for years, went on the offensive. In a stunning campaign in 1690, they managed to push the Austrians back. They retook key cities like Ni and Smederevo, and most importantly, they recaptured the fortress of Belgrade. It was a spectacular reversal of fortune. The Sultan and his Grand Vizier entered the reconquered city in triumph. It was a moment of pure elation and a testament to what strong leadership could achieve, even in the darkest of times. The empire, which had been on its knees, was suddenly back in the fight. However, the war was far from over. While the Ottomans were having success against the Austrians in the Balkans, they were facing trouble elsewhere. The Venetians were attacking in Greece and along the Adriatic coast, and the Poles and Russians were applying pressure in the north. The empire was fighting a multi-front war against a powerful alliance, and its resources were stretched to the absolute limit. Amidst all this turmoil, Sultan Suleiman's health, which had never been robust after his long confinement, began to fail. He was suffering from dropsy, what we would now call edema, which caused severe swelling and pain. Despite his illness, he tried to prepare for the next campaign season, determined to lead his army once more. He traveled to Edirne, the old Ottoman capital, to be closer to the front, but it was not to be. His condition worsened rapidly. In the summer of 1691, just a few months before another decisive battle would take place, Sultan Suleiman too passed away. He had ruled for less than 4 years. He was succeeded by his younger brother, Ahmed II. So, how do we remember Suleiman II? He's often overshadowed by more famous sultans, and his reign was short and fraught with disaster. He inherited an empire in full-blown crisis, facing military defeat and internal collapse. For the first 2 years of his reign, he was largely powerless, a puppet of a mutinous army. He wasn't a military genius or a political mastermind. His decades in the cafes had made sure of that. But here's the thing. When he finally got the chance, he made the single most important decision of his reign, appointing Fazl Mustafa K. This choice saved the empire from immediate disintegration, and by personally leading his army, despite his own inexperience and poor health, he inspired a recovery that no one thought possible. He wasn't the architect of the comeback, that was K. But he was the enabler, he was the catalyst. He put the right man in charge and gave him the support he needed to succeed. Suleiman's story is a fascinating what if. What if he had been trained for rule? What if he hadn't spent 40 years in isolation? But perhaps his greatest strength was recognizing his own limitations. He knew he wasn't the man to fix the empire's deep-seated problems, so he found the man who was. His reign was a brief, frantic, but ultimately crucial period. He held the line, he stopped the bleeding, he gave the Ottoman Empire a fighting chance to survive the 17th century. And for a man who was handed a losing hand, that's a pretty remarkable legacy. Thanks for watching. We'll continue our journey through Ottoman history in the next episode with his brother, Ahmed II. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. See you next time.